It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on when those sirens are gone. My shift is finally over, I gotta deal with what's mine and try to find a way to leave those tragedies behind. So I hug my 2 children, I kiss on my wife. Just another day, the first responders life.
All right. Welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show. We are coming to you live from United Access. You are listening to John and Sam. We are your first responder network, providing resources and vetted services to help heal our heroes. We are coming to you live from United Access. I'm writing it again, all right? United Access is a privately owned and operated company and is the second largest provider in the nation for accessible vehicles for people who have become disabled. Today is part two, as we continue to focus on our first responders who have become disabled due to work-related injuries. Last week, we had the honor of speaking with Air Force Major General Kevin Pottinger. I want to make sure I said that right. 2-star. He's the founder of Freedom Mobility Foundation, and today we have him here as well. He has partnered with United Access here in Arlington, Texas. We'd like to welcome back, always a pleasure to have, Lisa Ramsey, Fort Worth police officer. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing great.
And from United Access, we want to welcome Mike Shipka.
Thank you.
All right.
Pleasure.
And always a pleasure to have my co-host, Sam.
Hey,
how you doing,
everybody.
Sam?
Doing great.
All right. Once again, we are going to be moving the camera around a little bit because we are on a remote location.
And the mic.
So please, if you can't hear us properly or if we're too low, this is a remote location. So just bear with us, and we will get this. We will make a difference together. Once again, Sam, we've been trying to heal our heroes in so many different ways through therapy programs, through Heroes on the Water, through Our Watch. There are so many different therapy programs, but sometimes we fail to see that our heroes lose their independence due to disabilities that occurred on the job. And what makes that bad is they lose their independence, what puts them into a bad mental health area, and they feel that they can't do anything anymore. And United Access has changed that. Lisa, once again, thank you. We said last week that you have gotten a van from Freedom Mobility.
Right.
And since then, from your prior vehicle, how did things change?
Well,
A
I
little.
got my first van. Mike actually set me up with my very first van about 17 years ago. And prior to that, I'd been at home. Well, no, we also modified that truck I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I would transfer onto that little 2x4. Do you remember me telling you that
Yeah.
story?
Yep. Yep.
But before I had that done, I was at home for probably about 5 months before we had that done. At home, not doing anything.
In your
sitting
own
at
head.
home, day after day, all day I would be alone. Once they took my daughter to preschool, and yeah, I sat there all day long, nothing to do, just in my own head, in a manual chair. So, and I had carpet in the house, so I really couldn't even roll myself around very well.
For our viewers that are just tuning in, Lisa's current Fort Worth police officer, and if you could just give a little backstory, Lisa, if you don't mind, on how you became disabled.
Sure. Well, I was assigned to the narcotics unit, and one day we were out performing by a bus. We moved in to make the arrest, and during that, I was shot once, and the gunshot left me paralyzed from the chest down.
And, like so many others out there, all law enforcement that have sustained such critical injuries, you were lucky enough to, because of Fort Worth, to keep you as an active police officer.
Well,
Somewhat, but
yeah.
within a department.
yeah,
Within a
yeah.
department.
I mean, I had to fight them for 12 years, but yeah, but now they welcome me. Yes.
We've discussed many times how departments just, after somebody is critically injured, they keep them on the department rolls for about a year, and then they, I hate to say it, but they trash them to the side, and they
Yeah.
forget about their services that they've done and what they've provided for their
I
community.
mean, you have to understand, it's a business decision. You can't take it personally, but I think that's why I've excelled, is because I came back to work.
Right.
And, so many others, they just get stuck at home in their head.
And mentally, I mean, we know this. We're in COVID right now.
Yeah.
And without a disability, and people are mentally stressing out
Oh, yeah.
from being cooped up into their houses. Now, think about being cooped up in your house and not being able to do the things you really want to do in your house, right? So it's double jeopardy.
Yeah, because they would leave during the day. There'd be no help. And I'd go to try to get a drink of water. I couldn't reach a glass. They forgot to leave a glass to where I could reach it. Couldn't warm up any food because I couldn't reach it. They didn't move it down to a lower shelf in the fridge. So I would just be stuck at home for hours and hours, and no help.
Now, you also got a new wheelchair.
Yes.
Speaking about reaching things, and we were able to display this on the show last week. So the wheelchair came from Freedom Mobility.
Yes.
Okay. Now this allows you better access to everything in your house.
Everything.
Everything.
There are no barriers with this chair.
No.
None. In this chair, I can reach a shelf. Well, I can reach a top shelf in the kitchen. Okay. I can also go outside and go from my yard to the park.
In a sense, you can stand up.
I can stand up pretty much. Yeah. But this chair will do pretty much anything. You can go on the beach in it. You can go through.
Right. It's 4-wheel drive, right?
Yeah.
4-wheel drive.
Upstairs.
Yeah. Through rocks. You can climb stairs. You can do anything in it.
And things that we take for granted, such as just going out to the front yard in muddy weather after a rainstorm and
Right.
walking across the lawn, or going around obstacles, things that we find very very usual, just things to do, are big obstacles for you. So the chair makes such a big difference in independence and mobility.
Yeah, because no one chair is perfect, but this is about as perfect as you can get. I mean, it can really do. It's really a no limits chair.
And, you know, not everybody out there, or law enforcement or our veterans, get that same opportunity because they don't know the channels to go through. They don't know who to speak with. They don't know the services that are out there and the organizations that are out there that are willing to help them and get them and get their independence back. You know, you have right now we have a chief in San Antonio who's trying to get back, who lost his leg on the job because his prosthetic is not up to par with the San Antonio Police Department. He cannot he can't go back to being a police officer. So we want to make sure that we get him the help that he needs as well. You know, and Freedom Mobility and United Access. Let me introduce these two great fellas. 2-star Kevin Pottinger and Mike Shipka.
Correct.
So, you know, Kevin, you are with Freedom Mobility. You founded it. Tell us a little about Freedom Mobility.
Yeah. So Freedom Mobility Foundation, as you mentioned, we just want to restore the freedom of mobility to physically impaired men and women. And I do need to caveat one thing and give credit where credit is due. And the foundation that really paid for Lisa's iBot was called Independence Corps. But we went out and found that foundation, and that's what we've done quite a bit of, is we go out and, since we don't have a whole lot of money in our foundation, being a new foundation, we at this point try to go out to other foundations and try to fit the needs or find the people to fund these different
But isn't that really what it's all about? Our
Yeah.
networking.
It's becoming a master at networking. And,
Yeah.
and isn't that the hardest part? Because when you're like, I remember so many people are like, Sam, I want to do this. I want to start this nonprofit. I'm like, well, who do you know? Crickets.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about getting out there before you spend all that money.
right?
You got to get out there, talk to people.
Well, a lot of things you're
Yeah.
saying are applicable here because you said before you spend that money, and that's where Lisa, since we've been established a relationship with Lisa, she's our ambassador now, and she's the one that we go to because she can help us screen the folks that are coming to us asking for support. Who's better than someone that's in that has a physical impairment? So she's been able to help us do that.
Right, because not every one organization can do it by themselves.
Right.
No.
You know, it takes many organizations to come together and make phone calls and provide funds because the stuff can get quite costly
Right, and
for
then
one organization.
yeah, and so Lisa is the one, she introduced us to Mike Shipka right here at the United Access, because Lisa said she's been working with Mike for over 12 years. I forget exactly how many years, but she
16.
said,
We all
Yeah.
forget.
she said he's the guy you need to hook up with to help you, modify your vehicles. And so we did. We went to I forget the name of the show that we went to. It was
Abilities Expo.
Abilities
Mhm.
Expo, and that's where we met Mike. And so it is all about relationships. Again, we are a new foundation, but we learned everything, or a lot of it, from the foundation I used to be with called the Air Power Foundation. And when I was with the Air Power Foundation, we were working very closely with an organization called the Adaptive Training Foundation, which I was talking with Sam about. And the Adaptive Training Foundation had all these men and women that were physically impaired, either paralyzed, missing limbs, but they were just so motivated to get out and regain their freedom. It just inspired me and another gentleman by the name of John Winzauer, who's our president, to get out and trying to find a way to help facilitate, help them out as much as we could. So that's kind of where we are.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Mike, you're the owner, manager,
No,
GM?
no, we're a national company,
National company.
pretty much coast to coast now. Like you said, we're second largest mobility provider in the United States.
Okay.
We represent many different companies that do structural modifications on vehicles. Going back to the foundations, that's a key to a lot of what we do, because in this world we live in today, nothing's really cheap anymore.
Right.
Not even
I just
basic
want
car.
to play a quick clip of United Access. Give you guys. And I watched this on YouTube, and I almost became emotional because of just the way it was.
We have those days a lot around here.
And I want to share that with the rest of the audience before I bring you on, because I want them to really get the feel on what your daily job is. So check out United.
The final surprise is the band.
I had to wipe my tears many times. It's just humbling to be part of
He
it.
gave him his legs today, is for sure.
United Access is one of the industry-leading retailers of wheelchair-accessible vans, trucks, SUVs. Every day, our employees get up with a singular passion to serve those who have disabilities. There's no better job than coming to work each day knowing you've impacted somebody's life for the better.
So welcome back. If you didn't get emotional just seeing that video trailer for United Access, check your BP, because maybe you don't have a heart, because that because that really it shows the heartwarming effect that these organizations jump into, and to really serve other people. So Mike, I want to thank you and United Access for what you guys do.
Thank you for letting us be part of this tonight. And again, that was our president, John Baring, and again, you're right. I mean, it's we were talking about this when we were walking around a little bit before the show. Is that there's a lot of great jobs out there, but I don't think in my mind there's any as rewarding as what we do. I mean, that's why I've been doing this 20 years. You think a lot of times, well, let's do something else, but you know that you're going to be miserable because you could change people's lives with what we do. From the video, you see that, coming in every day, there's a new person rolls through the door every day that has a disability, and our mission is to make them independent again and let them go do what they want to do, however that is. Whether it's custom building a Tesla or building a truck for Lisa or whatever it is, that's what drives us to open that door and come here.
Can I say something about Mike for a minute? Okay, you can probably get a vehicle, from Braun Mobility or from other places, from dealerships or whatever, and you might get a little bit knocked off of it or whatever. But the reason I deal with Mike is because if I need help on the weekend, after hours, I've got his personal cell phone. I just call him or text him and I go, Mike, I need you.
We can get that out over the air, right?
Yeah, no problem. Here it is. You got
There's
it.
probably 1,000 of those in here, so you might as well.
But that's why you develop a relationship with someone local. And, like I said, Mike put me in my very first van. I love the guy. My dad loved the guy. And one day I was having lunch with a friend, and he'd just been visiting with Mike. Mike goes, Lisa, you're going to have lunch with Lisa? Hey, I haven't seen her in years. He showed up, and I'm like, where you been? And so he told me, and I was like, okay, I'll be down there.
I went to
Because
Dallas
I'm
and
not
stayed
dealing
for
with
work.
that other place anymore. So that's what it's all about. And then we started putting out word going, hey, Mike's back over here. Next thing you know, a lot of people were showing up over here.
Well, that's networking, that's got to be.
Well, in our community, you have to have people you have to have people you can truly trust and deal with, and that's what I have in mind.
And I just want to hit on a point that you're talking about on the relationship you have with Mike.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk into any dealership,
Right,
and going there with a disability. It's got to be tough because people look at you different. People judge you, and people may want to blow you off or not give you the type of services, that you deserve or that you should have, right? So here at United Access with Mike, you feel that love, pretty much.
Yeah.
You feel that love.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen a bunch of people come in here a lot worse shape than me, and he speaks to them just like you would anybody else. And
wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Wants to get them their independence
Yeah.
back. So, Mike, back to you real quick. There's a part in that video that says, I just love coming to work every morning. And you see people pretty much at their worst. right?
I do.
And they'll come in and maybe another dealership or someplace else they went to, just like going to a therapy session, you get frustrated. So they will come into your doors and they're like, oh man, it's going to be another turn down, or they're not going to be able to customize a chair or a vehicle that fits my needs. But then they leave smiling and happy once they find out that you can do that.
If we can find a way to do it.
If you
yeah.
find a way to do that.
In some cases, the answer still has to be no, but in
Right,
most
but-
cases, we're going to do whatever we can to try and figure out how to get it done.
What are some of the challenges that you face? Because it's a variety of customized work. It's not just one size fits all.
Correct. I mean,
You know?
the vehicles that are modified, whether it's a pickup truck, minivan, whatever it may be, are generic in a sense, but they're also universal enough to where Lisa can drive from her chair, or somebody can park their chair and get into a different seat and drive from it if they're able to transfer, which Lisa really can't because she's paralyzed, like you said, from the chest down. So
Right.
she pretty much has to stay in her chair. So you can look at a person in a chair, and for the average person, it's like it's a person in a chair. But until you know what the level of their injury is and everything else that's involved,
Right.
I mean, it could be a quarter of an inch on the spine, and it could mean, all of a sudden she's from the waist down.
Which would make a difference in the way you retrofit the vehicle.
Exactly.
Right.
On whether they can transfer, they're able to get out of the chair, what kind of driving controls they need. And we were looking around here, you didn't get to see, you were setting up, but we've got high-tech driving equipment that's wheel and lever and joysticks and things like that for people that don't have range of motion. And it's not all disabilities from injuries. There's terrible diagnosis when
When you're
children
born.
are born, or at a young age, children are diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, or the family today that second band I built for him about 13 years ago was the last one. The little boy has CP. Well, he's not a little boy now; he's 40 years old. But so it's all different disabilities.
Right.
But it's giving back the independence in whatever way we can. The girl that came to me and said, "I've got a Tesla, and this is how I want it equipped." And we're like, okay, let's see if we can figure that out. Well, guess
And
what?
now it's a challenge.
We figured it out.
Now it's a challenge.
And that's where, we're blessed. And she knows Will that works in the shop with us here. He and I have been together on and off for 21 years.
So
And he thrives on, when he goes home at night, when he's working on a job like that, he's dreaming about how am I going to make this work.
Now, does the work that goes into these vehicles? I mean, do you have? I'm picturing him at home, on his computer, not drawing, but everything is like a program,
It's all
and
it's
all
all custom. Now
Okay.
we'll get parts and pieces from manufacturers that are the devices that make
Sure.
it happen, the hand controls, the transfer board,
Yeah, this switch,
the
this
speedy
wire,
lift,
this
the generic lift, but some lifts we get, okay, there's a specific application for a Dodge minivan.
Mhm.
Well, for a Tesla, there are no specific.
right.
So we take a company that I'm very familiar with, sold their products for a lot of years out of Canada, call them and say, this is what I want to do. And they're like, okay, I trust you. I trust Will. We'll ship you this universal kit that typically fits a Chevy pickup. And then we'll ship you the speedy lift and you figure it out from there. And it was a challenge. I mean, a Tesla's a pretty sophisticated, scary car. Once you start tearing parts out of it, it's like,
Right.
wait a minute, why are all the airbag lights on? What do we do here? But it was so much
Right.
fun, and that's the fun part of it. It's every day it was a challenge to see, okay, now we got to get Sarah to come back over here and put her chair in there and make sure it all fits right. And she's a pretty high level quad as well, just like Lisa. Lisa said she started out in a manual wheelchair, and most quads do, I think, that are and work into a power chair over the years. But Sarah's young; she's 27 years old. She was in a terrible car accident, and she wants her independence. She wants it her way, and she can afford to have it her way. So that was really cool because Will's wife called me and he's like, "Man, I hadn't seen this happy in forever." Because he at night he's at home thinking, "Okay, now I got to do this with the platform, and I've got to move this over here." And no, it's not a computer. I mean, we get the basic parts and pieces, but then it's up to us to, in our heads or on a piece of paper,
Right.
draw out how we're going to make this work.
And that's the amazing part about it. And I'm just running it through my head because you're talking about cars and you're talking about different retrofittings, and each car, each van, each vehicle, year is different.
Mhm.
So, I was talking this over with my wife one day, and we were talking about doctors and veterinarians, right? Okay, a doctor knows the human body, all right, but a veterinarian's got to know everything from a frog to an alligator to a bird to,
So you'd rather have a vet work on you than a doctor? Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yes, because they're more well versed,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's like you. It's not like bringing your car into a Honda dealership and they know Hondas, and
Oh, they
you,
freak out. What is
right.
that?
You and your fabrication team have to know the specifications for almost every model of car and van that's out there.
Yeah, and we get help from our manufacturers. And
Right,
those other
but
things.
but still, you
Yeah.
have to be able to
Yeah.
be able to do and work on that. You have to know the weight capacities and how you're gonna have to build
Yeah.
stuff up.
Will
So-
it still handle it with that wheelchair? And yeah, that's
right.
all
So-
important stuff.
And when we talk about handling, you talked about the different controls that each individual needs. How is the training? Like the training on those controls,
Well, it kind of goes back to when Lisa was first hurt. For somebody to roll through the door and say, "I want a set of hand controls in my car," it doesn't work that way. You have to have there's certified driving instructors that just train people with disabilities to drive.
I did not
I
know
did
that.
not know that
I did
either.
not know that.
And then that evaluation is it's not my decision, it's not their decision, it's not their family's decision. Because it's not just the physical side of it. There's the physical
a
side of
little
it.
closer.
The physical side of
You're
it.
rolling all over the place, Mike.
I'm
You get
sorry.
excited.
I am. I love what I do. So there's several parts to the evaluation.
Yeah, usually when you're
It's like the
in
medical,
a rehab
clinical,
hospital,
yeah.
they put you through a driving course. They never got around to mine.
But-
I didn't even know I had to. I've been a police officer a long time, but I didn't work traffic.
Well,
I didn't know I had to
it's
specialize.
not required by
Right.
law.
Oh, it's not.
That is not a law. That is
No,
our.
but you have to have a special license with all of that.
With the
all your
controls?
You do
equipment
not have
on
to.
there.
That is not the law.
Really?
We require the driving evaluation because it's really important. Because again, it's clinical. What medications you're on, where's your head at? We were talking earlier about people they end up in a cocoon at home because they feel like their life's over after this happens. Well, who
I
says
wish
they
I'd
can
have
really?
known that because mine. I look at mine.
It's good to have it on there,
gosh,
though.
I'm so restricted.
No, it's good to have it on there. We recommend every customer that gets hand controls go do that after they get their hand controls. Go take the test again at the DMV. That if anything ever happens legally, you can say, "Yeah, the state of Texas says I can do this."
See, that was my next
But it is
question.
not the law.
That was my next question. If it was
Personally,
the law, or
I
they
think
had
it
to go,
should be.
or they had to go for another driving test
Now,
with the controls.
some of the driver evaluators, there's a big company based out of Houston. Did you use? Yeah, Cassandra.
Yeah.
So if you're a new injury and you're being trained by this company, well, I can say their name, right?
of
Strobat
course.
Driver
Yeah.
Rehabilitation out of Houston, big outfit. Chad's been around forever, probably one of the best in the country. They will physically, at the end of your driving evaluation, to
Right.
determine what their vehicles are equipped with what we call evaluator kits, and they can change out hand controls with a couple of pin pulls and change there's all kinds of different ergonomic ways the hand controls. There's push rock, there's push twist, there's push pull, there's push right angle. There's all these different types of hand controls. Inline,
Right.
they determine what are the best ones, and they can switch all those out in their van when they're with this person to determine what works best.
So it's a
At the
comfort
end of-
level.
right?
Comfort
And-
level.
or fatigue.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you may not have the range of motion to turn your steering wheel like this. I built Lisa's truck. She didn't need reduced effort steering, but I built a truck for a veteran right before hers that she did need reduced effort steering because at the end of the day, she would get fatigued and she couldn't continue to turn the wheel and drive safely. But again, that's what the driving evaluation is all about because it goes on for days and sometimes weeks to determine what you really need to drive safely.
And then
And we
mine
take that.
lasts like 5 minutes.
Right, because she's been driving for
Yeah.
Right.
17
And I've
years.
had the same evaluator this whole time. Every time I get ready to get a vehicle, here comes Cassandra.
Yeah.
And so, we probably spend more time just
Talking.
chatting and catching up more than anything.
How's your dog?
Yeah.
But let me
Then we
let me
take a
ask you
spin.
something, Lisa. You said that they covered driving in physical therapy.
Yeah, when you're first injured, usually after you get out of the hospital, they ship you off to a special rehab hospital. Like I went to BIR, Baylor Institute of Rehabilitation in Dallas. A lot of people go to Craig Hospital in Denver, but and there's some good ones across the country. But I didn't want to leave my daughter, so I went to Dallas. But yeah, part of it is they send you through driver's training, but for some reason they missed mine. I kept asking about it, but I never
But like the
got
driver's
to.
training, how do they know what controls you're going to use, what controls you're comfortable with? Do they? I mean, because
Well,
I'm sure
this
your car.
instructor was
Is it
gonna.
like trial and
Yeah.
error?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, once you start out, they know, okay, Lisa's a quad, and we're going to start here. And then we're going to work either forward or backward from here, depending on what they're. I mean, they're not going
Like-
to take you out on the freeway right off.
Right.
My
You're going to
first
start out in a church
control-
parking
Right.
lot, or
My first control, it looked like a motorcycle throttle, just a straight bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was hard for me to drive and stop and go traffic. My wrist
I
would
bet.
hurt so
There you go.
bad,
Yeah.
just like this.
fatigue.
Mhm.
So the next one, kind of L-shaped. I don't know what you call it.
Push right angle was your
but-
next one. I think.
And I love it because I can just prop my elbow up and I just, just barely pull on it. It's very comfortable. My wrists don't hurt anymore. But they're already shot from that first one.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
but this is so.
But
much
again, the
better.
push rocks that you have push rocks now, right?
Mhm.
Rock back for gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So push rocks. Hand controls have come a long way.
It's the own language that
I-
we have
yeah.
going
You know,
on. People, if somebody just tuned in, he's like, somebody's pushing rocks.
See,
What is,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
no.
But I'll clarify.
that's
I mean,
what-
the way hand controls work is you're always pushing toward the dash for brake. You've got to physically push that brake pedal, right? That's always going to be push. So there's always a push involved in a hand control. Then from there, it's a matter of the traditional hand control that was invented. Actually, kind of cool story. Jeff Gordon, the famous race car driver,
Mhm.
Mhm.
his stepfather was one of the first inventors of hand controls in California eons ago. Another guy who was a pioneer in the mobility industry, Tom Wright, it was actually his stepfather here in Dallas, started a mobility company. He invented hand controls that were still around. We still see some in cars today, which were just a crude mess, honestly, when you look at compared to what we have today. But back then it was just basically push right angle. And when I say right angle, you pull down for gas and it would pivot a gear of sorts, and that gear would turn and push the gas pedal. And then you would push this way for brake. Now we've got push rock. The rock actually, that's what she's talking about, how much easier it is. She just takes
Oh,
her
yeah.
fingers for the gas.
So
Touch.
the technology from 21 years ago
And it goes even farther, yes.
has.
With drive-by-wire in cars now. we
Are
don't
you
even-
talking
What-
drive by?
We're physically,
drive by wire.
we're physically not even attaching to the gas pedal anymore. We're plugging into that power wire.
Well, tell them about my spinner knob. You said
Yeah, that, and that's a whole. But we're physically now with hand controls. You're always going to push the brake. That's always going to be a rod, okay? But the rod that came in, and I've got the scars on my knees to prove it from years of climbing in and out of cars. Those rods that go down to the gas pedal don't exist anymore. We plug in. When Lisa gets in her truck, she pushes the little blue button that says, "I want the hand controls on." If somebody else gets in her truck and doesn't touch any of the buttons, you just use the pedals. That's the technology of today that's now working its way to us. This is new to us in the last 5 or 6 years.
So it's just constantly advancing.
Yes.
Constantly advancing.
Yeah. And then you go to what she was speaking of in her, when we're taught to drive, we're all, well, who knows?
10 and 2.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
10 and
all
2.
right.
All right, good.
Did I
good,
just show
good.
my
There
age?
you go. 10 and 2. Depending on what age our parents let us start driving. I was 12. But 10 and 2.
I'm a 10 and 2 kid, not
Yeah.
a 9 and 30 or
So,
6:45
it's
thing.
not like this and your arm hanging out, dad saying you can't drive anymore. So when you have a disability and you're driving with hand controls, okay, you can't do 10 and 2 anymore, right?
Right.
Because one hand's on the hand controls. So we do a spinner knob. And again, that's an evaluation thing. But Lisa, to fit her in her pickup truck, her chair sits so far away, we extended the steering wheel out where she could reach it. Well, then all of a sudden you can't reach your turn signals. You can't reach your cruise control. You can't reach your secondary functions on the vehicle. So her spinner knob is actually kind of teardrop shaped.
Mhm.
Has a little thing for nighttime. You can turn a light on. You can run your turn signals. So she's holding on this to steer the wheel. And at the same time, she just pushes right turn, left turn with her thumb. I don't know what finger you do it with, but left
I
turn,
love
right
it.
turn, cruise control, headlights, horn. You can honk the horn from that. It's wireless, Bluetooth wireless now.
Wow.
And again, that's evolved over the
Okay,
years.
so Bluetooth wireless. So I gotta throw this out here because anybody knows, if you lose a Wi-Fi signal, your Bluetooth will go out. What happened? Like, what's fail safe. What's
Well, I
the
mean,
emergency
it's just secondary
backup?
controls. I mean, we're just talking about turn signals. I mean, she could still reach up and the turn signals still function. This
Okay.
just makes it where she doesn't have to let go of the wheel. She just pushes the buttons for the horn. She can still
Because,
push the horn.
yeah, in my van, I used to have to reach through the steering wheel to hit the blinker.
Okay.
Because who wants to let go of, the brake and then hit the blinker
Yeah.
and then you got to grab it again. So I would just reach through. Well, Mike saw me do it one day and he said, well, that's not cool. I was like, hey, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
Lisa, and getting on to what you just said, reaching your hand, because you're adaptable. I got to say, you're probably the most adaptable person I've ever met. I'm sure before I've known you, you were very frustrated, and you drove a car normally before this with the Fort Worth Police Department.
Yeah.
This has got to be a learning curve.
No.
And no,
Mm.
really?
I thought it would be too, but my legs don't move. It's not like I can go, okay, move leg. It just doesn't happen.
But does your mind still
But-
tell your legs to do that?
No.
But did they when you first got injured? Because now I'm curious. I mean, you're
Mm-mm.
teaching me something
No.
now.
No.
I was just looking at the frustration factor to learn to, it's like going from a vehicle to a motorcycle. I'm using my clutch, my gears. It was training myself to do that. And if some people get frustrated, they can't figure out the gears, the clutch, and the gas. With here, you're using different things on a steering wheel. You're looking at your brake, and you're using your hands instead of your feet. For some people, that's got to be frustrating because they can't comprehend to not do that. Or how's that? I mean, I don't. I'm just asking.
Never, ever was a problem. Never. I swear.
I'm
to
shocked.
you.
No, I believe you. You don't have to-
I'm shocked.
It was
I believe
never
you.
a problem. The only thing was trying to learn not to hit the brake too hard.
so hard.
Yeah. Because
Then
you
she'd
brake.
honk the horn with her head.
If-
then.
Yeah,
I-
you brake differently with your hand than you do your foot.
I brake
It's
differently with
easier.
my left foot than I do
Yeah.
with my right foot because some people drive with 2 feet.
Right.
All right, but if I went to brake with my left foot, I would slam on my brake and throw everything through the windshield because I know how to use my right leg to kind of
It's muscle
feather.
memory.
It's muscle
Yeah.
memory. So with that, I could just see you pushing so hard on the brake, or that's why I was wondering if
And
there's
I'm
a
so intrigued.
curve.
Because I tell people all the time, it's like learning to drive all over again.
Nope, never was.
I say that all the time.
The only thing
You're
is,
giving out false information now, Mike.
Well, in my mind, I'm with you.
yeah, and
In my
that's
mind, it's like your mind's telling you push the pedal, but your legs don't work anymore, and you have to break yourself of that. Obviously, you're just a step above everybody.
Hey.
But,
now.
No, I
You
think
said-
it's
and everybody's individual,
Yeah.
and it's probably different for everybody. But I mean, that's amazing.
I think when people hear Lisa's story and they see how far she's come, it's always been a willingness to put yourself in situations that is not normal. I mean,
yeah,
how many people just say kayak fishing? You
Right.
know? Most people in wheelchairs that I know is like, what do you mean kayak fishing? I'm in a wheelchair, and until you have exposures from heroes on the water and you see what they do, for me,
Right.
I'm like, yeah, go kayak fishing, and they're looking at me like, well, you have legs. And I was like, you don't need that.
Right.
There's a group that will get
Well-
you fitted. You like fishing, and most of the time their eyes get big as saucers, and they're like, I dream about fishing.
Well, you
I
did
just
that,
never
right?
thought it would.
Lisa?
Yeah, it would
Because
happen.
Lisa likes it, right?
Right. So, and like adapt all the athletes that that you met at ATF, it's the willingness to do things that in your mind you told yourself, because I'm in this chair, because I no longer have limbs, because whatever, I can't.
Right.
And when you have, whether it's therapists, doctors, whomever around you, where it's always like, no, you can.
Well, see,
So I think things are different. It's different now than, you look at the Vietnam veterans coming home. There was nothing.
but see what you
nothing
just
like
said. I got a
this.
great segue for that. Who better to say I can than a 2-star major general to lead this pack, because you know, you never say I can't, right?
No, it's you know, I've learned so much from these men and women that with these physical impairments. When as I was talking earlier on the Adaptive Training Foundation, the first time I met this group of people there with David Vibora, who runs the Adaptive Training Foundation, and I just could not believe them. I mean, they were just smiling, but they were getting themselves around. However, if they have to drag themselves across the floor, that's how they would do it.
Right.
Just about 6 months ago, there's another group that we work with, and they're a sled hockey team. And this sled hockey team was in a national tournament, so John Winzour and I went up to St. Louis to watch them participate in this tournament. We went back into the locker room, and they were literally dragging themselves out. I mean, they didn't have any legs were gone, and they were just pulling themselves to the ice and dragging their sled. And it was amazing how these men and women, their desire to want to get out and be mobile and compete.
Yeah.
This group were taken here in the middle of September. They're from Colorado. They're this sled hockey team. They wanted to go fishing. So they're doing a team building exercise, and 7 of them are coming. 5 of them are amputees. And they said, hey, we'll figure it out. You just get us to the river. We'll figure out how to get where we got it. And I go, well, do you need any chairs? And they go, one guy will need a chair because he's paralyzed, and just, help him if we can get him a track chair, so get him a track chair. He said, the rest of us, we can wade in there. We'll wade in on our stubs, or we'll go in there with, we'll just somehow get to the water. But they're just they just want to get out. And it makes me, it's inspiring for me.
Because what you two, both of you do for the communities, and how you came together, you give new life between both of you. God bless you both, and God bless your companies and your foundations, because you really give life to people that may be frustrated or may decide to say, hey, I can't live like this. Such inspiration, and availability with the vehicles, and the passion to make it work in any way possible. You wish there was more of that around.
Well, John, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
One thing I've learned in a short period of time is, and I mentioned this on your show last week, every person that we deal with is a little different. And I had no idea. I mean, I walked into this thing thinking can't be that difficult. But once we started meeting these different men and women and seeing what their injuries were, and Lisa really opened our eyes. But we realized, boy, we are not even coming close to the mark here. And then when we met Mike and we saw some of the equipment at the show that we went to in Dallas, and we saw some of the folks that were there that needed this equipment, we thought, okay, we are out of our league. So that's where we established a relationship with Lisa and Mike, and we're still learning every day. So we are too. Yeah, so we have the passion to help. The biggest problem that we have is, we're a new foundation, so we have to get funded so we can go out and help these people. So right now it's all about going to other foundations and getting them to support us, but we need to. Which
is hard during COVID.
It is very hard.
During a pandemic, you see all these organizations and foundations. Everybody's hurting for a little bit of cash because no sponsorships. No donations, because their businesses are hurting.
You have to rely on grants and other things that are out there to be good at going and getting that money.
Which is tough.
Yeah.
And then, what people don't realize is the importance of what Kevin and Mike do has a direct effect on people's lives. I mean, we were speaking last week, how many, you have a waiting list.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what is it, like 2,400? I don't remember the exact number.
There's 2,400 track chairs that have been issued. There's 600 iBots that have not been issued, but there's a waiting list for 600 iBots. And so our goal is to try to, support all these people is best. Now, not all of them need the same thing, but we want to try to find the funding to help pay for iBots or trucks or lift systems. And then we're also learning that it's more than just those systems. It's the modifications to these vehicles that cost a lot of money unless it gets picked up, by some state.
Let's talk bare bones here. Let's talk money real quick, because some people don't understand the amount of money it takes to retrofit a vehicle or an iBot wheelchair. We were talking about San Antonio, just on a prosthetic leg that has to be submersible into water is $120,000.
Right.
That's no just drop in the bucket. That's a lot of money for just one prosthetic leg. So when we're talking about an iBot chair, right, like the one that Lisa has, that allows her the mobility to go outside, to go upstairs, to go to the beach, to reach things in her cabinets, to give her that independence, what is something like that run?
So that's $30,000.
$30,000.
$30,000, but we round it to $35,000 because you have to pay for the transportation, then you have to pay for the hotel, and so there's some of those.
Because there's training that goes along with
There's
it.
training that goes with it, and then you also got to consider their care provider. So they can't just go there on their own. So you're really taking care of a couple of people to go there.
Right.
So for Lisa, it was about $35,000, and thank goodness for the Independence Corps. They paid for the $30,000, and then the Freedom Mobility Foundation, we picked up the additional cost to get Lisa there. And can I say American Airlines?
Yeah.
American Airlines.
Hey, give anybody who deserves credit, give them credit.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, American Airlines, I was just trying to get a good seat for Lisa and her dog and the care provider, so they would be in a good spot on the airplane. And I called and said, can you just get them these seats? Can you block these seats? And they called me back in an hour, and they go, you know what? We're just going to do a little bit better than that. And they gave her round trip first class tickets for Lisa, her pup, and
Which,
Very
that's
nice.
another whole deal for
Yeah.
somebody in a wheelchair getting on an airplane. That's
Yeah.
a
Right.
whole other
Oh, yeah.
conversation.
yeah, it
Could
is a
go on
whole
for
other
an hour.
conversation.
Right.
But anyway, so it's nice when you get the support like that. But so that's what it
So
costs.
$30,000 for the chair, Mike. I guess your costs vary extraordinary from
Yes.
different vehicles and different modifications.
Yes.
But let's say someone who in Lisa's position to retrofit her truck. What does something like that cost? I mean, we got to look at the truck, right?
Right. Well,
The cost of the
we'll,
truck?
we'll take the cost of the vehicle out, because in most cases, even if there's a third party, whatever it may be, there's state and federal agencies, there's nonprofits, there's all kinds of avenues for money to help pay for the modifications.
Okay.
That's part of my job.
Okay.
I've got a 14-page list of funding sources, nonprofits, whatever it may be, that if somebody needs help, it's like, here, if you're willing to go do the work, you can. I had a lady took that list, a year later, she came back with $36,000 and was able to buy the van she needed.
Wow. Okay.
And that doesn't happen every day.
No.
But
No.
But that's ultimately what it boils down to. With Lisa, to upfit the truck for her to be able to drive it. This doesn't count the truck.
So right, we're looking at a regular truck,
Yes.
standard truck, and it comes here, and you're going to retrofit it so she
Yes.
can drive it.
We shipped it to the plant in northern Indiana. That's the only place in America that converts a pickup truck. I think it was about $52,000, roughly about $52,000 to put Lisa behind the wheel of that truck.
But is that including the shipping to Indiana?
Yes.
Oh, so
Shipping
52.
it back. Yeah.
So we're looking at 52,000 for the
But that's for a
retrofit.
pickup. I mean,
Right.
pickup's a little more expensive.
Okay, but let's 52,000 for the truck, 30,000 for the wheelchair, and let's round it out at $100,000.
Well, and then if you add, so we also have the ant lift, which
Right.
Right, the list.
the original, and that's 10,500. And the original idea behind the ant lift was to help people lift a track chair or an iBot, because we were trying to get people that wanted to get outdoors, people that like to hunt and fish. So we try in our foundation to try to find 4x4 vehicles with crew cabs, so they have plenty of room in them. it's a, tall ass.
Not a Tesla.
Not a Tesla.
Right.
Not yet. But if you add that ant lift in there, that's another $10,500. And that's where Mike and his team here, they've installed the ant lift. We just took a truck down to San Antonio Monday. I drove it down there and gave it to a 100% disabled veteran. It had an ant lift in it. And I got the pleasure of pulling that truck up. And when I drove up, just to see the big old smile, he took his mask down, big old smile on he and his wife's face, because now they have a truck with the ability to lift their mobility device so they can get out and really
Right.
enjoy. So
Can't put a price tag on that.
No,
Cannot put a price tag on that.
Mike, that's where Mike comes in handy with
Well, really will. But
our will. And anyway, so
We're going to be able to show some of this, right?
Yeah. We're going to walk around in a minute,
Okay.
but and like I said, we can run over time a little bit. It's because we're not in the
I
studio.
know there's so much to see.
Uh,
People, we're talking all
You know-
this stuff, and I got a sneak peek. I'm like, it's going to take time because
Yeah.
people want to know. I don't even remember the term that he's talking about, but what something looks like with nothing in it. Because I
Right.
think people should understand when you get a vehicle and you rip the guts out. Like I was like, hold, remember?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a. It's really a structural modification, but I think I'm going to start using when we rip the guts out of your van. This is
That-
what it'll
you
look like.
can
I
use
like
that
I'm going to
terminology?
start using that. I like that. Thanks, Sam.
You're
Now-
welcome. Anytime.
That's a good one.
So we're looking at we looked at the price tags. We looked at kind of waiting lists for freedom mobility. Excuse me. Is there a waiting list for vans and retrofitted vehicles?
No,
No waiting list.
and again, there's funding sources. There's private pay people. There's people out there that have money. They'll write a check.
Right.
We see all different
Have you ever
levels of.
Have you ever run into brick walls
Oh yeah.
where? See,
yeah, breaks
this
your
is where
heart.
I'm going to start to rant a
Breaks
little
your
bit.
heart.
This is where I'm going to start to rant a little bit, because me and Lisa were talking about this the other day about she was injured on in the line of duty doing her job, and she's going to run into brick walls trying to get funding for something that she needs. I don't think that's fair. It's same with our veterans. Our veterans are coming home amputees. They're coming home with disabilities, and they have to fight for funding. Both of you have to fight for funding for something that our government, our cities, our states, and our local politicians should be giving them, instead of the fight. We should not have to fight for this. Our men and women have gone above and beyond. They've been injured, protecting and serving our country, and we have to still continue to fight for funding so they can have some sort of independence. And that pisses me off. That's where I don't like the way we run these foundations. I mean, not foundations,
Yeah.
the government, that our
Insurance.
foundation. Because if it wasn't for people like this, our foundations, where would our heroes be? Where would our veterans and our law enforcement, our firefighters and our EMTs that get hurt on the job every day, where would they be?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of the things, having Steve work with adaptive athletes and, having a glimpse into the grant world from the stuff that he's doing, it seems like, well, first we have insurance that we get when we're able-bodied, right? Unless it's a situation where somebody's born with CP or a known degenerative disease. But let's just say in Lisa's case, so we take out, insurance, can't have disability insurance because we carry a gun. So that's off the table versus, let's say you're a doc and you carry disability insurance, something catastrophic happens, you can no longer work. Let me tell you something, because personal experience with Steve, it's not worth a darn. It doesn't provide what you think it's going to provide. It's a game. It's total BS. So Lisa's injured in the line of work, in the line of duty, protecting our communities. She's got her insurance as she took out as an able-bodied. Now it's like, holy crap, because let's face it, as officers, we don't ever think that anything is going to happen to us because, we do this
The
in
big S.
Superman.
Right.
Right, exactly. And So the entire system is set up where if, because you're playing on an if, something happens, it's almost like they're, oh, well, we'll worry about that when it happens, but guess what? They didn't sign this, or this isn't in their clause. So, they'll ask, but we don't have to give it to them legally.
Right.
If you can look at yourself in the mirror as an adjuster, as a person who gets people to sign up for this kind of insurance, yes, they do. I'm morally, I couldn't do that, because at the end of the day, you're setting that person up to fail or for a huge fight. And what does that do? That just causes stress, anguish, and then when you do get whatever you need, it's not what's to enjoy.
Right.
Because you put so much into fighting for your life. Because people, it's like, oh, they're in a wheelchair now. We'll just get them round the clock care. Nobody thinks about independence of the person. Did you ask the person in the wheelchair what they would like?
Right.
Nobody does that.
See, and you brought up another good point with grants. People go, oh, just get a grant for that, or just get a grant for that.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to write
a grant.
Exactly.
You got to be a PhD in grant writing.
Exactly.
Because if you forget to cross a T or dot an I or leave out a certain word, they're going to deny that grant.
Same thing with Medicare billing.
Huh?
It's the same thing with Medicare billing.
Right.
With the missing the dot and the I, and they reject it.
So why do we make the system so frustrating, so difficult for those who have served our country and our communities? We make it so difficult for them, and we wonder why, people get bitter.
Why do we have veterans who go to the VA for help, and time after, you and I have heard this, and all they get issued, there you go, with the military, all they get prescribed are pills.
Right.
When, how many years has EMDR been a proven therapy modality, yet not accepted in the military community, in the Brain Institute in DC, until just this last 10 years?
Right.
Come on, we're smarter than this. The system could be changed if we really wanted it to be changed.
But it's not in their backyard.
It's not. Not only is it not in their backyard, maybe they can't even conceptualize it because they don't have a relative, a friend. But when you're talking about tearing down a structure and rebuilding, we have really smart people in the United States of America that can do these things.
Right.
And we just push it away. It's not a pressing enough issue. Somebody's independence and life is not a pressing enough issue. That's the bigger question. What are the pressing issues? If somebody's life is not a pressing enough, then what takes precedence over that? There's a lot of questions.
There's so much that goes into this, Sam, that it's mind-boggling.
Right.
That we and we've talked about this so many times about what if there were no 501c3s, if there were no organizations out there, if there were no Gary Sinise's out there, if there were no Wounded Warrior projects out there, or whatever the organization you see out there. Just recently, and I'm going to vent again, and I'm going to give a big shout out to the Tunnel to Towers foundation. Okay, this city scraps 9/11, scraps the lighting of the towers, scraps the reading of, and they blame it all on COVID. Came out yesterday that the 9/11 museum said, oh, well, it really wasn't for COVID, it was because of money. Well, you're a 501c3, you have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Where'd that money go? No one's asking those questions. But Tunnel to Towers Foundation said, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're going to give you the money. We're going to make this happen, and we're going to make it work. So if they didn't step up, if this foundation, organization of volunteers, who care about their community didn't step up, over 3,000 families, more than that, would have been affected because they were all mad that this tower lighting and the names weren't being read. That affects so many. So think about that. When you think about this, think about those foundations, that $11, that $15, that $20 a month to help out a foundation. That goes a long way if we all pitch in and give. And then, we don't have to have our heroes suffer. We don't have to have Mike and Kevin, pounding down doors to try to get some money to make someone get their independence back. That's what we have to change in America. That's what we have to change in society is getting people to be a little bit more humane instead of thinking about yourself all the time.
Well, that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole
isn't
nother
it,
story. Well, I'm getting off my course now because I get passionate about that and that pisses me off.
No,
but
Is that why the microphone's so far away from you?
Well, spit.
No, it's, you and I have our 9/11 thing, so we also came out very vehemently on videos of our own that we made. But again, it comes down to lives, and I think where we are as a country right now, we don't know what it means to be a human being, because when you drive your car, in this case a truck, to downtown to a city, you're with your wife and you're just trying to do an everyday thing, and then you're kicked in the head and now you're dead.
No, he didn't die. That was false news. He didn't die.
Oh.
Heard it on the news. He is recovering. He's in bad shape, but that was false news spread through the internet that he passed away.
He's definitely got brain injury.
Oh yeah,
okay?
yeah. But he is mending.
I'm not going to spread false news. Okay, he's not dead. But what that?
Right.
5 years ago, this wasn't happening. Last year, this wasn't happening. People were not being ripped from their vehicles and beaten to a bloody pulp. That's what I'm talking about, the humanness. So nobody, if we don't keep bringing this kind of stuff forward, if there's no voice, then it's like other 501c3s that just kind of fade off into the distance. And that's why you and I do what we do.
Right.
That's why we have other organizations do what they do, because the humanness, the morality, the right and the wrong, what we know to be true because it lives here, that's what we bring forward. And that's what people, the United States of America, there's some cord, it was like an umbilical cord, it's been cut. And we've got a long road ahead to bring things back together. We've got a lot of conversations that need to be had. We've got a lot of understanding that needs to be brought forward. And until we can do that, everybody's going to suffer. But it's not necessary.
No, it's not. And that's why networking is so important.
Absolutely.
Because if it wasn't for Lisa, right, we would have never known about freedom mobility. And if it wasn't for freedom mobility and Lisa, we would not know Mike here at United Access, which now is part of this networking family and gives us, because Mad Radio is all about vetted resources and giving back to our communities. So when we run across somebody who needs a vehicle, now we have United Access and Freedom Mobility, and we say, hey, we have a vetted resource that you can go to. When we go to our fundraisers and we speak to people, and we could say, hey, where are you looking to put some money? You can put some money this place, and that's what it's all about. We have to build each other up. Yeah. Because not one person can do it alone.
Well, and you mentioned the grant. So we just brought in a grant writer, and she does have her PhD.
Because you need one.
Yeah. But she's a wife of a military officer that I flew with in the many years in the military. So she's we spent an hour on the phone talking with her today about writing these grants, because we have to have someone that can dot all the I's, cross all the T's. And the questions she was asking us, I mean, John and I were kind of going, we didn't think of that. We didn't think of that. But we need that, and so we can build up our foundation so we can continue helping people. And one other person that we always leave out, and Lisa can speak to this, but these care providers, they are amazing. And we met one of Lisa's care providers last week, and she was just, I mean, you could tell that she has so much love for Lisa, and Lisa has love for her, but they do so much for these men and women that have been injured, and so we can't forget them. And there is a lot of compassion there, so it's nice.
There are a lot of organizations out there and a lot of caregivers, and that we still have to get to still promote and raise up and be their voice, because otherwise they're just the unsung heroes behind the scenes, and we need to help them because they're struggling too. There are a lot of them are volunteers. A lot of them are 501c3s that need some extra funding to pay for the services that they have to render. And before we go on the tour, I do have to, and I'm going to do it again.
The
Rick,
fun stuff.
I know I want to just say to the man behind the scenes over there, Rick, where are you? There you are. Rick Irving, who has been, when we talk about being a voice, okay, Rick is a silent voice in our first responder and our military community. He's a silent voice behind the camera who takes extraordinary pictures and that leave lasting impressions. Mm-hmm. And they are so emotional that you can almost feel the heartbeat of the person he's taking the picture of. Absolutely. And Rick, I got to thank you from behind the lens for everything you do, from taking pictures of our World War II vets that are being laid to rest, to Back the Blue rallies, to our veterans rallies. People look at it as sometimes as just a picture, but you provide more than that. You provide some soul behind that picture, which uplifts everybody, and it really, it sounds like a cliche, but your photos do bring us together. They unite us, and that's what we need. We need more of you out there taking pictures of what America really is, because you capture those moments through a lens. You're not capturing what the mainstream media is, where we're rioting and burning and looting. You're capturing the American spirit within people and showing positivity and an uplift. So every picture you take is just uplifting and spiritual, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do.
His pictures have gone national.
Yes, I really want.
Yeah.
I do really. I thank you. So we're gonna take a walk. Let's take a walk.
I think people need to see what we've been talking
so
about. So how are we going to do
what
this?
we're gonna do?
Play with my toys.
What we're gonna do is.
You want me to take the camera?
No, I'll just carry the camera. Maybe we're gonna go on a little bumpy ride, and we're gonna just walk around and take a look at what they have, what United has to offer. So I think if I take out the snowball, I think they can still hear us. So let me just undo this, because unlike CNN and Fox News, I don't have a cameraman that
There's no boom.
with a boom mic and everything else. But we'll make this work. I want to make sure I'm not attached to anything. We'll make this work.
Good.
So I'll just follow you around, Sam.
Well, I'm gonna take my cue. I'm gonna take my cues from Mike here. I'll stay close to the mic so you don't lose
You're
me.
good. We'll be able to hear you.
We did a little pre-tour. I mean, again, it goes back to Lisa has a van and now a truck. We're gonna, I think, go outside and look at the truck. But the vans, again, a lot of what we do is structural modifications, or like she said, what did you say?
Rip the guts
Rip
out.
the gut. We rip the guts out of the van.
That's going to be the new United Access logo.
I gotta write that down. We rip the guts out of the van, so
out.
it's usable for Lisa. So if you turn and look that way, I mean, we've taken a minivan.
It's a basic minivan, right?
Modified it. This is a Toyota Sienna.
Now that was just done by a push button on a key ring,
On the key fob.
Yep.
on a key fob.
So Lisa has a van very similar to this. It's not this brand, but she drives in, and just like in her truck, she drives behind the wheel, locks in, and drives from.
So
her
like
wheelchair.
with this vehicle right here,
Yes.
I see there's a driver's seat.
Right.
So this is just a transport vehicle?
No,
Or, no.
both these seats are removable.
Oh, okay. So
Push
both.
down a pedal, they roll out like a dolly.
Okay, so one of those would
So
come
you could
out. She could just
passenger.
drive right in.
Right. And her minivan's set up that way.
May I go in?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look where that back seat is,
Yep.
basically, right next to it, that was the original floor level. So we've dropped the floor on this van 14 inches. This is the original floor.
Oh, wow.
We've dropped it this far because a person in a wheelchair
It's higher.
sits
Right.
tall, sits
Right. I'm almost 6 feet and I'm just bending a little bit.
right.
Now, how about the modification on any controls?
This doesn't have any.
This one doesn't
is
have
just
any.
a basic van that somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I'm Jim and I'm looking for a van. I want to drive from my chair," and we'll equip it that way.
But you can modify this as well.
Yes.
Right?
Again, as I said earlier, they kind of come in a generic form. To then we take it, and Will and the guys in the shop really, they work their magic and put the hand controls and the driving devices and all those type of things that make it usable for Lisa or whoever it is. So,
Okay.
but we're starting out with a basic Chevy pickup truck, a Toyota minivan, a Dodge minivan.
And
whatever it
so
may be.
I'm looking at a picture behind you. So we're talking about minivans here.
Right.
That looks like a Ford Explorer.
It is a Ford Explorer.
Okay, John, do you want to?
Yeah.
So we're
I'll
now
follow you.
talking about, this is an SUV, so not a minivan, and obviously in this picture the retrofitting, you had to change,
Same thing as we did on the minivan. Lowered the floor.
lowered the floor, but now you have a door
But
that
that door-
operates like a minivan instead of.
Exactly.
Huh.
The Ford Explorer changed for 2020 to everything we modify in minivans or SUVs is front wheel drive because we can't deal with the drive shaft being in our way, right?
Right.
So the Ford Explorer was front wheel drive. The 2020 is now rear wheel drive.
So
it
that's
no
a big
longer exists.
modification. That's a big
But
modification.
in about 2 months, we're going to have a Chevy Traverse converted exactly like that. And I think, honestly, it's going to be a better chassis for us than the Ford Explorer was. But for years, people complained that I don't want a minivan. Lisa probably said when she first got hurt, she was much younger, I don't want a minivan. But it's the perfect fit for what we do. Well, we figured out from taking that feedback from people, okay, we can figure out how to do SUVs. We can figure out how to do pickup trucks.
Right.
All those things just come with vehicles advancing and changing and things. And so, yes, that's a great point. We don't have the Explorer anymore because they quit building them that way. But
And so now we're going to look at the ultimate in pickup truck
yes,
modification,
yeah,
right?
that's going to be Lisa's show, right?
All right. Are we going outside? We're going inside?
Yeah.
Can I borrow your keys, or do you want to do it?
To give some
All right.
commentary.
This is
So
extreme.
yeah, so we're gonna have some sun here. So
You know what? I can't do this.
You can't
You
go
gonna lose the
outside.
Wi-Fi?
I'll lose the Wi-Fi.
We can go next door.
We can't.
I will lose the
Okay.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So we got Wi-Fi.
We have Wi-Fi next door.
That was a chair.
Yeah, but will I lose it?
I don't think you'll lose it next door.
Oh, no. Okay. So we go right next door?
Yeah.
All right.
All
We
right.
just won't go to Lisa's truck.
So we're gonna go into, I'll call it the showroom of toys.
Yeah.
Good.
Lead the way.
Okay.
And so we'll get an idea again of what different vehicles look like. A lot of people have seen, as have I, lots of minivans, and
Right.
I always was wondering why, they sit so much lower, why they have this
So
extra
high.
low thing, and that's because they're actually dropping, like Mike said, the floor inside to accommodate the wheelchair. So
Here's a perfect example. Fan back that way if you would. The silver one is equipped with a ramp that comes out of the floor, but the door is about 55 inches tall. Okay? That's a Chrysler Pacifica. This is the exact same van, but look.
Yeah, it's
Why does it
completely
not
different.
sit all up in the air like that? Because this one only has a 53-inch door because not everybody needs a 56-inch tall door. So this gives you what looks more like a stock minivan. Doesn't have all that stuff you're talking about. They all work like the one next door, whether it's a fold-up or an inflow ramp. Now this one you'll see looks like it's even higher on stilts, right? Well, chairs have gotten bigger. People have gotten bigger. If you look behind you, there's a whole bunch of chairs over there in the corner waiting to be built into something. So keep in mind, this has a 57-inch tall door in a minivan.
In a minivan.
That's why the minivan is raised so high. When we lower the floor, we have to raise the van to still be able to drive over speed bumps and do things with it.
This also brings to point parking. I see this.
Oh man, you get me on the rant now.
I see this.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring
Okay.
that up.
So look at cars when you park next to them in shopping malls or grocery stores, because these vans look like normal vans. And if you do not read the bumper sticker right there that is on the window, you can end up pulling close to a vehicle that needs to have
why they're
at
striped.
least, huh?
That's why you got stripes.
on the.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, this is one of my rants. If you would allow me to rant for a moment.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, you do a lot of that on this show. I like it. So when you see handicap parking, there's handicap parking. There's handicap parking van accessible. That is for this. This van needs a full spot for the ramp to come out and Lisa to be able to roll out and get in and out of her chair. That's why there's van accessible handicap parking and there's handicap parking. And if you look at the signs, and legally they have to be 6 foot tall, they have to be in a certain place. There's all kinds of things that go with that. But the ones that say van accessible, that's what they're for. That's why the stripes are there.
See, and a lot of people do not know that.
No.
A lot of people do not know that.
Personally, I think they should somehow find a way to differentiate between that. Okay, you're allowed to park in these if you have.
Because I've seen people park in those blue crosswalks next to the handicap.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, I can park here."
No, you can't.
You know,
motorcycles do it all the time.
I know.
Maybe a motorcycle rider. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
They park
I
there all
don't
the
park
time.
there, but yeah, you're right.
So that's one of my pet peeves is the van accessible. And just looking around you, we've got Toyota Siennas, we do Honda Odysseys.
So these are all retrofitted or being
These are all
retrofitted?
structured. Yeah, they're waiting in line to have something installed. I was trying to think. I had a van. I don't know where I put it. Oh, it's right here. You wanted to see some hand controls, and we can look on the way back out. A lot of these, like the big van over there's got the steering pulled out. The van over here's got the steering pulled out to modify it. Again, when you're talking a range of motion.
So this is a caravan. It doesn't even look like a caravan from the back.
Right,
No.
yeah.
It looks like an SUV.
So Lisa, and no, we can't really see it this way. There's an electric lockdown. There's a pin on the bottom of her chair that locks her into a vehicle that's safe. I have a chair next door that was involved in an accident. The chair's totaled. The van was totaled. The girl was fine
Oh, wow.
because these lockdowns are crash tested.
Oh, okay.
You know,
They're almost
it-
like the big pins.
Right.
The
Like a
seat
fifth
pin.
wheel hitch in a
Yeah,
truck,
yeah,
basically,
yeah,
is what it is, really. And it doesn't, Sam was over here, she saw this. It doesn't have to be a structurally modified vehicle. We can take a vehicle, somebody just has a wheelchair and has a caregiver with them all the time. We have seats that will just go in and out of the vehicle and raise you in and out. We don't alter this vehicle at all. We take the factory seat out, we bolt ours in. If you need to put this back to a stock vehicle tomorrow, we can do that. And there's a lift in the back that would just lift the wheelchair. The caregiver would bring it around, and Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones could get out of here and get into their wheelchair. But it allows them to get in and out of the vehicle.
Wow.
And if you look around, everybody always says, well, I don't want it to be a minivan. But if you look at the size of a minivan, you think a Suburban's a really big vehicle. But if you open that back door,
Yeah, no,
it's considerably smaller than the inside of a minivan.
So
That's why
this
the
this
minivan
allows
really
somebody from a wheelchair to get right into that,
Right. Put your wheelchair here, you just transfer right over.
transfer right over.
Go to this one. This one's equipped. This is one we've built out. The chair's already in here. So the door, again, all the doors open the same way. Factory door. We have to make them open a little farther. The ramp's going to come out from inside. Harold's chair's already in here. So I'm going to go in here and kind of duplicate what he would do. He's going to drive his chair up in here. He would drive straight in. He would park. And then this seat right here, he leans down. This seat comes back. It's on a mechanical base.
Yep.
Okay? And then it rotates. And then he just transfers from here to here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's now behind the wheel. He still drives with his feet. He still has some use of his legs. But that's how we can rotate him behind here. Parks his chair, hits lockdown and a lockdown. Like I said, when I go out, I'm going to show you that. I'm just going to run this forward to get it out of my way. Because I don't need it here. But if I get back in this chair, fire it up, I've got a button right here. Click. I'm out. And then if you look down on the floor, if I can do this without driving off the side of the ramp, I don't do this every day, obviously. If you look down on the floor of the van, there is the device. Looks like a fifth wheel hitch in a truck. That's what locks the chair in place. Right down here.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes in, locks into that, rotates around. So he'll drive in, rotate, transfer to his seat. So that's how we can take somebody who's still somewhat ambulatory, hasn't completely lost use of their legs, or is a para and is paralyzed from the waist down, but has lots of the core upper body strength still. they'll do something like this and they still have the comfort of, because it's no fun to sit in a wheelchair all day every day.
Right.
It's not comfortable. There's nothing good about it. So if we can get them out of their wheelchair, that's ultimately our goal, and find a way to do that. So that's kind of an example of how that works. And again, it's the structural conversion of the van, and we have to customize it based on that driving evaluation we talked about earlier. And those things, that's how we determine how the vehicle's going to be built. We're building a pickup truck next door for a veteran, and it's all based on what the driver evaluator Shirley at the VA said, okay, this is what he needs. He needs this transfer board, he needs this lift, he needs these hand controls, he needs this secondary device, and we build the vehicle to those specifications that driver evaluator gives to us.
So, do you do things like this in pickup trucks?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those will go all the way down to about 20 inches off the ground, which, as you can see, when you pull the wheelchair up next to here, you can stop it anywhere you want. But
Right,
you know, they would, depending on the person's ability, a lot of people will pull up here, the person can still stand and pivot and sit down in the seat, then you choose the seat. This was a veteran's vehicle. Mom takes care of the son. He was hurt, active duty. They thought this is the way they wanted to go. You know, we don't try and talk people. We let them decide. You know, they had this, and when it was time to get a new vehicle, they went to this.
Got it.
He doesn't drive.
Mhm.
He lives with Mom. She takes care of him, and they started out here and they went here. So, and you know, back to your rant, when it comes to, you know, the vehicle side of what we do and the departments we work with at the VA, it's a really good process. It works really well. The veterans get what they're entitled to. They get what they need. But again, it's getting through the red tape to get to that point, I think, is to your point.
Yep.
Our side,
Nobody
once
should
they
go through
get
that.
there,
Yeah.
it works really. Our side of what we do with veterans works really, really well. It's a pretty smooth process.
Great.
It's the red tape to get to that point. I
Right.
talked to a gentleman today that's 90% service connected, but he just can't get to that 100%. And that's where you start getting the ability to have these type of things in the VA help you get them.
Once you're 100%.
Right. Once you're 100%, you're service connected. So.
I think, wow, this is, I mean,
It's
come on,
eye-opening.
people, this is cool. Very eye-opening. I think Lisa is going to pull her truck curbside. So we should be able to keep the Wi-Fi. And so, you know, it's after 7. We're still going, people, because that's what we can do here
We're
at Mad
having fun.
Radio when we're on location. We don't have that time clock of being in a studio, and so we just got a tour.
But we got our batteries that are running low.
United Access. The batteries are running low.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully Lisa has her truck up front.
taking the key. Well, we're on the way. Here's we were talking about hand controls earlier. Here's Lisa's spinner knob, as we were talking about. I can take this off here and show you up closer. So if you look at it, you've got wipers, turn signals.
Oh, wow.
Horn,
Just like
cruise
a TV
control
remote
lights.
control.
Yeah, I mean, this one obviously doesn't work. There's a light, so at nighttime
Right.
you can light it up. But then, you know, the 10 and 2 thing applies. Okay, there's Lisa's hand controls. Rock for gas, push for brake.
Oh, that's why she was saying she could use it.
Right.
So,
That's why she just does this now.
yeah.
Originally, she had push right angle, which that'd be this. So I'm pulling down. This lever would then move the gas pedal.
Got it.
This is push pull. I would pull for gas, push for brake. This is push twist, motorcycle guy.
Right.
And then push rock. These hand controls over here, these are, in my opinion, the coolest ones there are. These hand controls were developed and have been in Germany since 1923, almost 100 years.
Wow.
Now, they look a lot better today than they did then.
They aged well.
It's a company called Feigl. But again, we have a similar deal. This is a push twist type deal. So this is gas, always forward for brake, right? Gas, brake. And these can mount, we do a lot of these in sports cars. I mean, I've put hand controls in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you name it. We've put hand control. I mean, just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't have a Lamborghini, right?
Right. You still
Heck,
can have fun.
Lamborghini painted this girl's wheelchair to match her car. Bright orange. It was the coolest thing I ever saw.
Still
and
have a
guess
light.
what? I get to
That's
test drive
awesome.
every hand control, so it was a lot of fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, before your battery runs out on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's getting in right now. So Lisa's truck is really the extreme when it comes to structural modifications.
That's what she should name it. The Extreme.
Yeah.
Not Coco.
It's in the
Lisa, I'm going on record on the show. Your truck is called the Extreme now.
Her truck, as you see it, is the third, I guess, version of this type of conversion. It started out where the two doors came out straight and the platform lowered and you drove out, but it was a really tight fit. And it was electric and it didn't work very good. And much like the ant lift, which is part of the general foundation, the ant lift is unique to the pickup trucks and picking up heavy loads. But now we have hydraulics, just like the ant lift. So there's no limit. There's no limit on the weight of the wheelchair or the person in the wheelchair. So you can see the doors are welded together, hydraulics opens them. Yeah. She pushes another button, it rotates out, so she's clear of the bumper or the fender. The old version, you had to get between the door and the fender. It was really, really tight. This is the best adaptation of a truck we've ever had. And you can see
The
how much
best
weight there was
adaptation of a truck
that
they've ever had.
And there's
That's
been a
how
lot of
advanced
different
this
tries
stuff
at
is.
trucks over the years. Because not everybody, we always get that thing, I don't want a minivan.
Right.
So, and you can see, and it's not really a zoom, but her steering column, I was talking earlier how it was extended. You can see the billet aluminum between the steering wheel and the column.
Right.
We extended that. That's adjustable 4 to 6 inches. Because in this vehicle, she's back so far to clear her feet to get in, we had to bring the steering wheel out to her. And then if I walk over, you can probably see it from there, but you see the hang.
Don't want to lose the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So there's the gas. There's the brake.
Back on. Up, back on. Reconnection successful.
So we've always got a mechanical there.
Couldn't go that extra 3 feet. Made a difference.
You know, John, one of the points that was just made, people in Texas like trucks.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you know,
Yep.
I know van has been kind of the norm, but
Yeah.
Lisa wanted a truck. And,
Yep.
there she goes.
Yep. And that's a beautiful truck. It's just, and like I said, it is Texas.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is pickup truck heaven.
Really cool.
And then, so we touch on.
He's gonna do the ant lift now.
Okay. So I'm running out of battery.
10 seconds? 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Yeah.
Not in a hurry.
I feel like the guy on what was it, Terminator? Battery.
I know it was yeah, I know.
True Lies.
True Lies.
It's like the Terminator truck, right?
Yeah. Look at that.
So this is going to lift a really heavy wheelchair out onto the ground. These track chairs weigh 700-800 pounds. This can lift up to 1,000 pounds.
Wow. So Lisa, you have a track chair that if you needed to take it somewhere, you could put the track chair in the back, get in and drive your truck, get there, take the track chair out and transfer over.
Well, I need help transfer, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring that track chair to show you one day.
Okay.
Where the winch lets it down. Once it's out here.
Wow. All right.
I could have done it without the.
Let's hop back in and do a quick closing.
All right.
All right. I'm just going to jump back in.
All right. Wow. That was cool, people. I hope people stuck around to look at that. And yeah, so we were out at United Access here in Arlington, not far from our studios. And as we do every week, they can't do what they do without funding. And frankly, John, Mad Radio can't do what we do
Without funding.
So
Right.
if you would like to help support the show, please go to abadgeofhonor.com, click on Mad Radio. You'll see a donate button there. Donate to the show. You can also support by getting your license to carry. Say what?
Yeah.
I know.
Which now you need it.
I know. It's the most unique way to support a show, I think, ever. Your Texas license to carry. You can purchase a course. Go to carryintexas.com. It's only $49. I'm Sam, your host at Mad Radio, but also your instructor. And so go ahead and purchase a course, $49. Help support the show. And a huge shout out to Our Watch that has a couples program coming up this Saturday from, I believe it's 6:30 to 8 out at the ranch. If you are a first responder couple and you want to spend a very unique evening with some very skilled ladies, and horses are involved.
There you
It's
go.
the best equine program.
Everything's better with horses.
There you go. New tagline. Everything's better with horses. So
Everything's
check
better with
them out. OurWatchTX.org. And, John, we covered a lot today. A really important topic. And we always end the show talking about, we will never forget, certainly, our 9/11 heroes. We've got September 11th coming up right around the corner. You can support your 9/11 heroes' families, those that are here remembering their loved ones, as well as those that we've lost, by going to travismanion.org and registering for the 9/11 Heroes Run.
September 12th.
September 12th. The run kicks off at 9/11. But hey, if you don't want to run, that's cool. You can walk. You can even ruck. We've got activities for everybody. So that's travismanion.org, and you can click on the 9/11 races, find the one in the DFW, which is going to be right here in Arlington this year. And if you can't make it, or if you want to do it virtually, you can sign up virtually or just give a donation there. So lots of opportunities to never forget. And for all our men and women out there in blue, green, red, yellow, all the colors in between who are on the front line serving, God bless you, and just be safe out there.
Just want to, as we're closing out.
No,
I got it. They see my voice. I just want to thank United Access. I want to thank Freedom Mobility. I want to thank Lisa Ramsey. And I want to thank Rick Irvin for, being such a big part of this community. And there we go. Well, that's the wrong song. Hold on. I have my glasses on. No, we'll work. We'll make that work. Until next week, follow me and Sam every Wednesday on the Fishbowl Radio Network. And God bless, stay well. And if you could be anything in this world, please be kind. Until next week, take care.